For an ex-royal like Prince Harry, you would be considering the fact that you feel you could do anything to turn anything around. You see, Harry had been used to a life of privilege and seemingly getting his own way at every single turn. When you look at younger video footage of him, you can see that he's going to be something of a rascal, and clearly Princess Diana did let him kind of a little bit be unruly, because of course, as she famously said, you can do it but just don't get caught. This is the problem now in adulthood that Harry has. No two ways about it. But you see, Harry's always believed that his star power, his position in life, could literally change things. And this really was the, shall we say, how can I put this nicely, the ground basis for the marriage with Meghan Markle. He clearly told her that the world would be her oyster, seemingly because of his position. And then very quickly, very fast, she found out that really he was a second player, not really the superstar that she thought she clearly married, and as ever, I have to say, allegedly. But what's interesting here is the fact that Harry was convinced that he could convince a major brand to come on board, literally, for, of course, Meghan Markle and her desire to become an ambassador for an amazing brand. Something a little bit like, say, Dior, Cartier, that sort of thing, you know. A huge brand that would no doubt fund any aspirations she had in the future, i.e. American Riviera Orchid, you know what I'm saying? It's interesting to find out exactly how this really didn't develop. As ever, let me explain. Morning, lovely to see you today. Yes, I'm talking to you. You're all right. Thank you so much for joining me. Yes, and I'm glad, as I say, you enjoyed the pictures of Mimi the pet parrot. Lovely, wasn't he? Full of colour as well, yes. As somebody said, Neil, he had a look of you, he just needed a necktie. I think that's an insult to Mimi, to be honest. I don't think he looked like me at all. Not quite sure if Mimi's a me or a she. It must be a she. Yes, must be a she. How dare we insult Mimi? As ever, back to your royal story of the day. Now, I find this really interesting because when you think about it, it was so obvious and so laid bare. If you recall, of course, Prince Harry decided at the final hour to turn up for his father's coronation of a matter of hours and then dashing off without really even spending any time or indeed giving any celebratory options to him. But there was a bigger picture, you see, for Harry, and we saw this at the press call for his battle with, of course, the press barons at the Royal Courts of Justice. Harry was decked out head to toe in Dior. Christian Dior, right? Yes, no British brand for Prince Harry, of course. No, of course, backing up the country that's looked after him for so many years at taxpayers' expense. You get the picture. Now, the whole reason behind that, I was told, was the fact that Harry, of course, very advisedly was dressed, put together by Meghan. And Meghan, of course, really wanted to have a part of Dior. You see how this works now. And very nicely, of course, Dior were allowed. And very nicely, of course, Dior were allowed to actually put out a tweet thanking Prince Harry for wearing their clothes at such a prestigious event. I mean, when you think about it, it was literally influencing marketing. But as I pointed out at the time, truly, who can afford to buy a suit, for Dior? I mean, really, they're so expensive. But you see, there was a bigger picture. Harry felt, of course, that, well, there was the worldwide PR, and obviously the brand of Meghan would just swing open the doors. Sadly for Dior, they felt that they'd got their worth, and he'd got his worth. He'd got a free suit and all the accessories required to attend the coronation. You see how this works. And apparently behind the scenes, things were frantic, shall we say. Meghan couldn't understand, allegedly, why, of course, this hadn't come on board. Finally, Meghan realised, of course, that Harry wasn't necessarily the big cheese that she'd thought. And sadly for Harry, although he tried his very best while advertising Dior at the coronation, and we are apparently totally aware that he was more than happy with that tweet to be put out, which was strange when you think about it, because nobody else who'd worn designer threads did, so he was quite unique in himself. He put himself out there literally on social media telling the world that he was dressed head to toe in Dior, and they were apparently very grateful for this. But it wasn't grateful enough to make sure that they decided, in some form or another, to try and back his wife in her ambitions, of course, to become a global ambassador for a major brand. Either way, it was back to the drawing board, and I was told something that really did not help the situation out in the world of the Sussexes. Interesting, don't you think? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.